Hello and welcome to the channel. Midwest Troms is stealing right out from underneath me. Today we're going to be reviewing another game, but don't worry, not too many more. This is the third one and there's no way this is a hit, so according to the 3-strike rule, after this I'm going to have to be out. In a world full of games that cost $26 million on the low end dollars to make, but still run like GTA 5 on a Commodore 64, or like Cyberpunk on release, or like Vanguard on release, or like Battlefield 2042. I'm pretty sure still, right? The game I present to you today comes from the development studio that I'm quite familiar with, coming from Wisconsin. Farm on Highway 51. That's right, straight from the... I'm sure they have hills and stuff, right? It's Poland. They're from Poland. The Chads over at Farm 51 have come out with the game we're going to be talking about today. World War III closed beta testing, while it does have issues, may I iterate to the point of annoyance, is in fact in closed beta testing. You're probably thinking, wow, Troms, this game must be horrible if you've mentioned that it's in closed beta testing this many times, to which I respond, you've never even been here before. You have no idea the cadence, the thought processes, or the pacing that I do or don't have. World War III closed beta testing is at this moment $15 on Steam with a free-to-play launch whose date is locked in what I imagine is the equivalent of the Polish Fort Knox. I bought this game with my own money, so you know that the opinions I have are my own. However, I think it is important to point out that from what I've heard about Farm 51, they seem incredibly reasonable when people talk about their game, and are incredibly open and receptive to feedback. But this isn't a video I made for them, dear viewer. I made it for you. But that being said, if anyone with any kind of pull is watching, two notes. Some way, anyhow, make armored vehicles weaker, or have more limited vision, or have the turrets move slower. Pretty please. The second is... okay, one note. But guys, gals, and non-binary pals, buckle in, strap up, and let's talk about World War III closed beta testing. Today we're going to be talking about various aspects of the game, and then wrap it up in a nice little bow at the end, and move on with our lives. Gunplay in this game is, in my opinion, one of the hardest things to review in a way that makes sense to people when I talk about World War III closed beta testing. It feels a lot like COD or Battlefield, but I always find myself wanting to compare it to Escape from Tarkov. I think that comes down to what drew me to the game when I first picked it up, and that's the time to kill. It's relatively quick, and to compare it so the vast majority of people understand, it's very much a happy medium between a core and a hardcore mode in a COD or a Battlefield. At the heart of World War III closed beta testing's gunplay is a hitbox armor system, where if you shoot someone center mass, it takes a decent amount of shots to kill, but if you shoot the neck or center of head or a limb, that number is much, much less. To summarize, the gunplay is something that's going to feel really familiar to you if you play any of the popular FPS titles, with a time to kill that is, for me, extremely satisfying. There are two game modes at the moment that World War III closed beta testing offers. First, and my personal favorite, is Tactical Ops, which is very much like a Battlefield mode, which I have no frame of reference for. That one. You can spawn on taken points or squad mates, and you take those very same points, except you need to take both points of the same letter to gain points, and the first to 5,000, or the highest points at the end of 30 minutes win. There are armored vehicles and both land and air drones, various score streaks to influence your time on the field, and a host of different parts to your loadout that can change up that experience. You can have up to 20 players per team and just duke it out. The second game mode that World War III closed beta testing has for you is TDM. It's a TDM, with the only twist being it's a best of 3 first to 50 kills per round. Not much more to talk about, as a TDM is a TDM is a TDM. Which brings us into our next point. Currently, World War III closed beta testing has 4 maps on each of its 2 modes, and when it comes right down to it, while map design and feel is a very subjective thing to talk about, I think it's something that World War III closed beta testing does really well, if not the best. When you're playing TAC Ops, it has plenty of open spaces to have epic tank fights and die to tanks over and over if you're infantry, but also nooks and crannies to hide from them, and pretty expansive indoor arenas for infantry to have their own spaces to fight in. As for the TDM maps, Farm 51 takes pieces from the same maps that you know and love from TAC Ops, tweaks them slightly, and creates spaces that feel like they were made for TDM. Unlike most other TDM maps you may have played, the TDM maps in World War III closed beta testing all have a focus of playing within a 3D space and really capitalize on that experience. Next, we'll talk about customization, because apparently that's what gets the shooter boys' rocks off. Have you ever looked at the wacky guns on the Reddits and wanted to try it for yourself, but also were too scared or too broke to try it in real life? Well, you can't really in World War III closed beta testing either, but I overset your expectations just higher than reality. Because while you can't set 100 lasers on your handguard or mount scopes on the Picatinny from your other scope mounts, it's not for lack of parts. The game has easily 50 attachments, and I'm talking performance-changing, stat-altering attachments. That's not to mention that in this game, you get to change the look of the old reliable you're deciding to run, and no, I'm not going insane. I've heard about skins, and I'm not talking about that. We're talking stocks, we're talking pistol grips, we're talking handguards, etc., etc. Also, I mentioned it before, skins. I mean, look at all these skins. You've got patterns, you've got solid colors, you've got materials, etc., etc. So, yeah, you can't post funny pictures of what you made on the internet, but the customization is pretty intense. Wait, you thought I was done? No, because there's also the character you're running that has its own set of customization, and while all of that is purely cosmetic, the options you have are still quite extensive, and you can customize right down to a little saying velcroed to your chest. Lastly, we're just going to briefly touch on progression, the backbone of how you unlock that crazy customization we just talked about. If maps is the thing that World War III closed beta testing does best, in second place comes the progression. While other titles in the genre have really quick unlocks and a pretty fast-paced progression, World War III closed beta testing says, whoa baby, slow down. I want to get to know you, have dinner, a glass of wine, let's talk about you. It feels really well paced for the amount of content in the game. It's not something you'll be able to finish in a sitting, but not a situation where you're going to have to commit all of your waking hours to have a good time. The one thing that I find could use just a tiny tweak is the fact that because there is such a good amount of content, I think there's no level you reach in this game or level you reach on a gun where you should receive nothing for your progress. All in all, though, an extremely satisfying experience. To take all of that in all the less time and get straight to the point, World War III closed beta testing is a game I paid for that's going to be free, that even through some technical issues that I expected when I received the game, have improved and the quality of the game alongside it. It's a lot of the same with some new ideas and tweaks to give players something that they'll probably love and feels just different enough that it's a fresh experience. Time to kill is extremely satisfying, progression is pretty satisfying but could use just a feather's touch of tweaking, map design is near exquisite, and customizing feels like you're diving into an ocean of attachments. All in all, alongside performance, I'd give this game a good old solid 7 out of 10. And I'm excited for the future. And I can honestly say that someday I'm excited to be playing World War III, not closed beta testing. If you're still here, thank you very much. I do appreciate your support, and if you want to continue to support, please feel free to like, subscribe, and, do the algorithm stuff if you want to. If you don't, I'm just happy you're here. Thank you. And if you want to see more of me, I'm on Twitch very regularly. You can find me at twitch.tv/Trombin, that's TRMBIN. We did a little bit of a rebrand earlier this year, so I'm just trying it out. Thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you have a good one.